Hello, Loreheads.
It's like you were waiting for me to start.
No, sorry. I was reading the quotes you had written down, and then in my head I was like, God, I didn't listen to enough Zed. And then I was thinking, what does it even fucking matter? And then...
Actually, doesn't have a lot of quotes.
He doesn't. It was very disappointing.
Really.
And he just sounds like a dude with a deep voice, but... Anyway. Hello, Loreheads, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. My name is Rebecca.
And I'm John.
My name is Mark.
Today we're talking about the Master of Shadow Zed, who was released November 13th, 2012. And he's been changed very little since.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They locked it in and they're like, yeah, this is it. We got it. Got it in one.
I don't know about that, Riot. I still hate playing against him.
Well, I mean, you know how they keep him purposefully, nerfed, right? Because... Right? You see that from writers?
No.
Froxen, one of the big that they purposely keep Zed, at least in his current state, purposefully weak, because he's such a pain.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, honestly. I think.
I've watched that Faker Zed versus Zed outplay so many times, and I still could not tell you what the hell happened in that play. Because one Zed is already confusing. But two Zeds. Two Zeds.
The shadows.
Two Zeds?
The shadows.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Two Zeds?
And then there's four Zeds.
Double Zed.
Remember the...
And then when you alt,
I mean,
triple Zed.
The fact that they allowed, blind pick in, Game 5 matches back then in, LCK,
so
that's
good.
the wildest part.
Bonkers. And also, can you still do that sometimes? Because it would be fucking hilarious.
I love it.
Not for, an important game, maybe. Just
some show matches would be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, surely they've got some all-for-one type show matches kicking around somewhere.
That would be fun.
Do you think Arena's going to show up at MSI one of these days?
Sure.
That'd be exciting.
Maybe.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Remember when they did, the 1v1, 2v2?
Those were so good.
Yeah.
Something like
Those
that.
were fun. Anyway.
What's Zed sound like?
I don't remember. Someone else go before me.
Oh, he's pretty straightforward.
You want to go after Mark? That's bold.
That's fine.
He's not that deep. You just have to imagine your head is locked in a big old box, right? He's got the most echoey voice of any of them. So he's secrets kept, weapons wasted.
Oh, that's good. All right, I'll pretend my head's in a box. Oh, God! My head's in a box! Okay, anyway.
And that's it.
That's it, everybody. The shadows have enlightened me. I don't know. Just some dude. Oh.
The unseen blade is the deadliest.
I didn't imagine him... I listened to him, and I didn't think he sounded so muffled and echoey. But I guess he does have a big old...
muffled.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, compared to any of the other ones where I've done this, like Urgot or whatever, I think he's the one that's...
Loosen up the mask, Zed.
Right? Let it breathe, dude.
It's part of his mystique.
Did you just drool, and spit all over?
He's got braces under there.
Full headgear. Anyway, on the Riot Universe page, he has a bio, 2 short stories, some old concept art, and 2 cinematics, The Death Mark and Wild Magic. Zed, the comic, not linked there.
Yeah.
And honestly, the 2 stories that are linked here
he's
in them a bit,
right?
But it's a Jhin story and a Kane story.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah. Very weird. I don't get it.
He does not have a short story.
He doesn't have a color story.
Wild.
No.
I was shocked.
Right?
I was certain he was going to have some little action piece where he's zipping around and turning into shadows and he uses his Q and whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, just killing some Noxians or something. Which one of the cinematics is that? I wonder if they release that instead of a color story. Because that's what I would have expected from the color story, but still.
Yeah, well, that was part of their animation showcase. So, I think, that was just, I'm sure someone said, hey, Zed's probably be a good subject for a little action piece, which is
Zed's cool, and we haven't done anything with him, so...
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, good instincts. They were completely right. It is. This is weird, right? I think it's because Zed gets a lot of. He feels like he's pretty popular. You see him in some cinematics,
Right.
like
And,
release the Zio one.
Yeah, Riot clearly loves him.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
He's a
it's
big
weird that
part.
he doesn't have his own. I mean, he's got his own comic, so I mean,
it's true.
It's a little. It's just a little weird, you know.
But maybe link
It's
it on his
weird,
page.
That's the other thing is that it's not linked. And I
Yeah.
think they unveiled this comic as a part of the 10th anniversary. So like they were. I think this wasn't just like something they just dropped randomly. I think they had some intention with it. It's very strange.
At least it is on the universe page. It's just not on his page.
Yeah, that's something. We'll
That's
give
true.
him that.
Yeah.
You can find it on
You
Universe.
can
Take what you
find
can
it there.
get. It's not just a dead link. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll get into the bio. As if we haven't gone over it a bajillion times already. With Shen and Jhin and Kain and Akali. Zed was a normal boy in Ionia. He was basically raised by Master Kusho and trained in the Kinkou Order. Although very different boys, he became besties with Master Kusho's son, Shen. When they were, I think, teenagers is when they went searching for the golden demon. Were they like late teens kind of thing?
Sounds right.
Yeah, they were very young men still. They were trying to help Kusho hunt down a golden demon who was killing just a ton of people very gruesomely. But when they found this demon, it turned out to be a man named Jhin instead. Zed wanted to kill Jhin, but Kusho stopped him. Their whole thing is like balance between the mortal and spiritual realms. So they kill actual demons. So when they found out he was human, he's like, we don't kill people. We only kill demons. So they imprisoned him.
People can't endanger the balance.
Yeah,
Please.
people don't harm the balance at all, ever. Zed was not really the same after all of this. He was really pissed about not like killing Jhin. And he also like super needed a therapist after seeing all of Jin's murders. Which they didn't have. They don't have counseling anywhere in Runeterra. Then Noxus invaded, and Kusho's refusal to get involved was really the last straw for Zed. He went into the temple's catacombs and peeked into some creepy box.
He opened the do not open box.
He opened the do not open box.
Every temple's got a do not open box.
Yeah, and that's really what it sounded like. Is he went into the temple to get the do not open box. It's basically what it said. There were shadows in there. It made his brain all like full of resentment or whatever. I don't really get what it did when he opened up the shadow box. Because he just did a peekaboo, and then put it back on the do not touch shelf, and then left.
Yeah, I feel like if we were to take the bio at face value, it seems like it affected him much more than it would appear to have in the comic, you know? Like
Yeah. I mean, broadly speaking, the comic is it's like it's a different Zed than what's kind of described in the bio.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. We still have the bio to get through here, but I really didn't need this addition of like, I understand the shadow thing, obviously that's his whole thing, but like it corrupting his brain more and making him more resentful. He had plenty of reasons to be resentful.
Yeah,
he didn't need this like extra do not open box full of resent shadow or whatever it was.
I mean,
like
Pandora's
That's
shadow
not how it reads
box.
in the comic even,
Yes.
right? Is that they don't ever really I guess they need to establish that he knows about it, right? That he would go back to go get it. But again, it's like it could just be he walks by and it's like, oh, there's the big box of shadow, don't go get it.
Don't go get the shadow.
I'm super serious, you guys.
I'm not going to lock it up, but
Honor system,
I trust
system.
you.
This is Runeterra. There's no honor system. But anyway, Zed left the temple, and he told Kusho, he's like, the Kinkou need to go after the Noxians. And shockingly, this did not change Kusho's mind. So Zed left. He turned his back on the order and left. On his own, he started like kind of making his own army, basically. Their goal was to give it back to Noxus, but he realized he needed that mysterious do not touch box again. Ooh. So he went back to the temple with his new acolytes. He went and got the black box and came back out with a bloodied blade and no more Kusho. So now everyone thinks Kusho is dead. But we know better because we've read the comic. The rest of the Kinkou, or at least the ones at the temple, all fell to Zed's soldiers, and they took the temple for themselves. They celebrated with shadow tattoos to control the darkness. That's what they do.
They're having a rager and
They
they're
wrote
getting
it in that
drunk.
voice, too. It was weird.
Mark, you went
I want
completely
Zed
mute on us. We
tattooed
can't
right
hear you
here.
anymore. Oh, no.
Oh, mute?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's weird.
Oh, that's a
I
shame.
assume
You can
you're
see
still-
you, so
Yeah,
the
I can see
connection's
you.
still working.
What about now? Can you
I
hear me
wonder if
now?
this is... on our side. I'm seeing a
baby.
question mark on our side now.
Where?
What about now?
Oh, no, you're good now. Okay.
Okay, cool. Don't worry about it. I was talking about them getting drunk and getting tattoos, and like, you know, I heart Zed in big letters here on a pot leaf on a cross, etc.
I want a skull.
Get Kusho killer, Zed. Do it. I dare you.
That would be a pretty sick tat.
That would really take Shen off. That would be
Right.
great. And Shen's a big old nerd, so. Anyway, during this Noxian war, he found Kain and brought him into the Order of Shadow. That's what he and his dudes are called, with all their shadow tattoos. The bio ends really just saying that he and Shen like can't be besties anymore. And it's clear that the balance in Ionia is all fucked up, but Zed doesn't give a hoot. It's kind of how the bio ends, very abruptly.
Yeah, it also kind of says, like, doesn't say that they're kind of in a weird truce or something like that.
Yes, which I didn't get that. Because they're clearly not. And
it doesn't matter because they dissolve it in like 3 issues into the comic anyway. So I don't know why they even. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I wonder if they updated it in preparation for the comic and then never updated it after the comic or something.
Maybe. I don't know.
Like, we don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
I
I would like to know, and this is something like that is a big question I was left with after reading the comic. After revisiting it for this, was like, what's the state of the world when it comes to Zed and his shadow nerds? Because I guess when we talk about it in the comic, like they're kind of by the end of it completely on their own. Like they don't have any allies anymore, and I don't really know what they're up to. Really, I guess like I can guess as to what they're doing, but
I think the main
really
insight we
vague.
get into what Zed is doing is through Zaya Rakan. They're like the only people interacting with Zed nowadays.
It's true.
That's true. And that's true, and that's also something that's hard because like it's like we said, Zed's not really in those stories. We don't know exactly how. I guess he's in that cinematic, but he's obviously so much there just for a cool action sequence. So it's like, how do we even understand Zed as a character through that or those stories? You know what I mean? And
he just looks like a straight up villain. I feel like in the Zaya Rakan cinematic, which I wouldn't say that he is.
That's like the big thing with Zed for me is like Riot really wants to have it both ways.
They do.
Like they really want Zed to be this cool badass villain that like everybody loves to hate and everything, but they really want Zed to not be a villain, be like this sympathetic, and maybe that's kind of a Marvel thing. I did read that like in the writing of the comic, Marvel had some strong ideas about things that they couldn't do with Zed.
Oh, interesting.
Really, that's interesting.
So maybe that's a bit what happened, but they can't make up their mind on what they want Zed to be.
Yeah, for sure, right? And you look at his old lore, and then we look at his old quotes and stuff. Like his VO hasn't been updated, and that's a lot more of what he originally was just a straightforward evil ninja, right? Like that's what he was, right? I don't know. I like the comic Zed the most. I think some of that's just like because they have so much more room to spend with Zed. Like you get a lot more depth and his character feels more, real and like an actual proper character instead of just an evil ninja guy. But yeah, I really would like for them to figure it out. What they kind of need is I think they need a more like strong villain in Ionia. They don't really have a strong one as part of the problem. I think that's why he's an easy. They go to the Zed well, for like, we need some villain here. Guess it'll be Zed and the Shadow Boys.
They've got a great one, and then they moved him to Piltover.
That's certainly
Jhin.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Syndra, who they just completely left in the dust.
Right.
Yeah. That's true.
Or Yasuo's dad.
Can they borrow some from Shurima? I feel like Shurima has a lot. I always felt like Noxus was kind of the villain of Ionia because they're just so different from Ionia. But they're also like, it's always about the war that had happened and isn't happening anymore. This is why I was like thrown off on about what Zed and the Order of Shadow are doing now, because the Noxian, like, the invasion was kind of a while ago now. So
I'm curious because, like, I don't think we have any. I don't know if we have any stories from the second invasion of
that's true. We don't.
Ionia.
I
we
don't
know
think
that
it's
it
even
technically happened from the cinematic, or is going to happen.
That's the thing, is going
like,
to is how I
teasing
read it.
Although I guess Noxus
Yeah.
still has like ports and soldiers and stuff around Ionia. Maybe
Yeah,
Zed
they
and his
haven't
guys are like,
withdrawn, you know?
yeah, they're like they're fighting like these Noxians and just kind of killing them is kind of what it seems like they want to do.
Sure.
I don't know.
Seems like that. Seems like trying to kind of push more towards like an Ionian like military unification. So we kind of see some of that in the comic.
Yeah.
And in the Sisterhood of War stories, I think that they do establish that like Noxus is gearing up for like they're gathering up armies and stuff. So it's on the horizon, quote unquote. You know,
Winter is coming for 12 seasons. Yeah.
You know what I would actually really like if we were going to get a Zed short story? Give us the Zaya Rakan piece again from Zed's perspective, so we can figure out why
what is he
he's not
doing?
the villain here.
Yeah.
Sure. Or
Because
even just establish
the
more
optics
clearly
are
what they're
real
doing.
bad for him.
You look really villainous, Zed. Maybe get a different mask or something.
That would help. One that doesn't have the red glowing
just paint
eyes,
a
right?
smiley face on it. No, that would look worse. You'd look like the Joker. That's how Jinx would try to like
Right?
fix the mask.
Have Jinx help you.
Jinx
here.
help you.
Sure, yeah. She's great with public image, for sure. Yeah, like I said, even just knowing what they're actually doing with the Quinlan, or whatever, because aside from just sort of broadly gathering up power and magic because they're evil and they want power, you know what I mean? Like, I don't remember like the specifics of what they're doing with it, if it's ever even established.
I think the most detail we get is that they are using it to siphon magic that they can use because they feel like as Ionians they are entitled to the magic of Ionia, especially when it seems like a lot of Vestayan and a lot of other Ionians who can access the magic aren't using it to protect Ionia. That's kind of their big thing. Like anyone who's standing by and not using their power to protect Ionia doesn't deserve to have it.
But see, that's the thing, is that like that's just not really in line with the Zed that's depicted in the comic. That's way more in line with like Kusho or Old Zed, right? Old Zed was a lot more like either you're with us or against us, and there is no neutrality. This Zed in the comic, which I kind of take personally as like this is the source of truth for what the Zed character is. Seems a lot more willing to like compromise. You know, he has a line in the comic about like you know, he knows that you need the Kinkou. Jesus Christ! I think we've done that every time we've talked about them.
I keep saying Kinkou. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. It's just a slip of the tongue. You know, a lot more nuance and stuff. He's not so much black and white as that sort of perspective is. You know, like, so I don't know.
Yeah, and I do like that line front that you just mentioned from the comic a lot, specifically where because I think in the bio we get a lot more of an idea of like, oh, they attacked the temple and they like slaughtered the students.
Yeah.
And in the comic, it was more like we attack the temple, we kill enough of the students that they hate us because we need them to hate us. That's the only way this all works. But we do want them to survive. We want them to thrive because they have a very important job. We know that.
Yeah.
But we can't. We don't want to corrupt what you're doing because you're doing great stuff here, but we also need to do our stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, you know, I think of like the other Zaya Rakan story where like they're having to free all these Vestayans who are like just seemingly just being held in cages for no particular reason, right? Also by like Shadow Order fellas, you know, just to be dicks about it. They even in the bio they make some mention of Vestayans.
They do.
I don't know why they try and paint Zed as like having a real stink eye for Vestayans. I don't get it. Like, I don't know where that comes from.
I think a lot of it because we saw in the Syndra story actually that not only were a lot of Vestayans neutral in the fight against Noxians, but a lot of them joined Noxus. Not a lot.
Did they?
Enough of them joined Noxus.
I thought it was just one guy, and he specifically was considered like a horrible traitor to all of Vestayans for doing it. See, that was the thing, is like, if that had been the case, I would be more open to it. But I be misremembering, but I really remember it being the case that like he joined Noxus and was considered, like that was the whole like the whole sacrifice was that everyone would hate him and he would be forever like cast out and like considered a horrible individual by the rest of his people forever for joining Noxus. When it's like, and it's hard for me to even imagine why Vestians would want to ally with Noxus. I could see them being neutral. I'm totally into the idea of them saying like, this is some weird mortal shit. We're just going to kind of hang back, protect ourselves, and see what shakes out. But that you would trade Ionians for Noxians seems like that is a massive, massive, like, you trading down. Like, you thought the Ionians were getting in your magic shit before? Look what Noxus got. So, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I'd like more info about this.
Yeah. I can't see them remaining neutral about protecting the land either. Like, I definitely see them remaining neutral in the actual battles and the wars itself, but, like, if a threat ever came to Ionia itself.
Yeah, which it's pretty clearly established that Noxus does, right? There's a lot of instances of them harming the spirit of Ionia, like the land itself becoming corrupted and shit. That seems like a good impetus for the Vestians to at least temporarily help out. But, what do I know? Right?
Especially because, as we see in the Zaya Rakan story, like, sure, if Ionia loses its magic because Noxus fucks it up, the people who live there, like, their way of life is pretty heavily impacted. A lot of them, like, use the magic in day-to-day life. Like, the Vestians, like, they're, like, alive because of the magic. Like, we see, like, Zaya and Rakan near the Quinlan, they're hella nerfed. They're, like, on their last leg trying to fight Zed here. Like, they need that magic there, so you'd expect a lot less passivity. Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of it just comes down to a lot of friction between the comic and the bio and those pieces that were written more with Zed as just a straight villain in mind, I bet. So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
From bio specifically, I thought it was interesting that there's so many orphans in Ionia, and Zed's kind of like made that decision himself. He's like, my dad left. Fuck off, Mom. I'm a warrior now.
All the cool kids are doing it. I guess I might as well.
All my friends are orphaned. I want to be orphaned too.
They asked me where my parents were, and I didn't want to tell them that I have a loving family, so I just
so embarrassed.
Vex, eat your heart out,
I also thought it was funny that the Kinkou fell kind of so easily to Zed's people. Like, it says that they were like kind of caught in shock, but I feel like shock or not, like, you've been trained by what are considered some of like the best, like Ionia's best. It's kind of embarrassing for y'all to fall to some random ass rabble that's following
They had
Zed.
a shadow box, John.
They didn't yet.
They had.
He got it.
They didn't have their tattoos yet.
That's true.
Maybe he poured out little sippy cups and I'll take a little drink of it. Because as we see, you can chug from the shadow box in the comic.
Just imagining them all waddling around with their straws.
Little Dixie cup.
They drop it and cry.
Well, I think that's something that if Zed was to try and put more an argument forward as to why he should be, like, he's the one in the Riot, he could probably raise that up, right? Like that, hey, this was one of the most storied, whatever clans or like ghost cops in history, and look what we were able to do in right. Remember RIPD? That's what the Kinkou are. It's like, but we were able to just like kind of wipe them away in one fell swoop. Like, imagine if we had that right at the wherever, not the Placidium, but some battle, right?
Right, that's Sin's
just kind of
attack.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure, right?
I mean, Shen wasn't there. So they were much easier to wipe out, I guess.
That's true.
And where was Shen? I don't remember. It probably said in his bio, but I don't remember.
I don't think they established it. I think he probably was
They said
elsewhere.
That he felt it.
He felt
and
it?
ran back. But yeah, he felt the disturbance in the Force and ran back.
He was training Luke with the droid and the blast shield down. How am I supposed to fight? Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he's just elsewhere, right? Seen missing. He's just... So.
I also liked that when Zed encountered Kane. It said, Zed could see the boy was a weapon waiting to be sharpened. I'm like, you have no idea. He's about to be a Darkin.
That line too also kind of runs contrary to the relationship that they kind of show in the comic, right? That also makes him seem a lot more like Kusho,
right?
Than he kind of seems in the comic. Maybe that was his original intention, and he grew into becoming like an actual mentor and almost father figure or like big brother. It's kind of, I can't tell, like, nail it down.
Cute.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I really like the turn of like Kane's kind of good turn or loyal turn in the comic.
Oh, yeah. Kusho sucks.
That's something. Yeah.
Well, Kusho,
I would be kind of open, as I'm thinking about it, I would be kind of open to the idea that was how Zed originally saw the relationship, and over time it changed into something else. Because that was kind of the case that I get from like Kusho, is that Kusho, was one way and then changed, but for the worse. And it's nice. It would be nice to see Zed kind of take the opposite and kind of change for the better in that capacity, at least.
Yeah. I feel that.
Kind of nice.
All right. Some short stories.
Anyway.
Yeah, we got some short stories here.
That he's not that he's kind of in.
Sure.
I did not write these down in like order.
Yeah,
I didn't like. Sure, you want to do Piece of Shadow Cake, or we could do The Man with the Steel Cane. The Man with the Steel Cane kind of like ties directly into the comic, so maybe we'll do that second.
Yeah, that works.
Sure.
Piece of Shadow Cake. This was that Zaya Rakan story where, they infiltrate one of Zed's, not really Zed's cities, but a city that Zed's followers have kind of taken over. And they're trying to protect some local Vestaya tribes that, not all Vestayan are cut out for combat, Like, obviously, in the League of Legends, we see the Vestayans that are, but some of them are just like these friendly seal folk. Not all of them are ready to get up and fight Noxus, so Zaya and Rakan are kind of helping get rid of the Quinlans near this tribe so that they can not die. And so, yeah, they infiltrate this city near the Quinlan that we see in the cinematic. We see all sorts of creepy Zed shit there, which is weird. They have like a mage who can sense Yordles and Vestayans, and that's an interesting one too. Like, I don't know why they're so pissed off at Yordles in this city. That seems like a weird, like, this isn't their fight, buddy.
I don't know. Maybe you could do something with like the Quinlan are big like magic dampeners or whatever, and the Yordles are beings of magic too. So maybe they've got kind of a, maybe Yordles always kind of try to come and like prank them or whatever.
I feel like Yordles are never in Ionia from what we see, except Kennen.
That's kind of except Kennen, yeah.
Yeah, like we only see them there in like Spirit Blossom shit.
Also, poor Kennen, not involved in any of the shit we're talking about with Zed and everything.
Yeah. But yeah, so they get intel on the Quinlan. They make friends with a human there, which Zaya doesn't expect. But, Rakan has a sense of things and can see people. And so they make friends with a human, and then they destroy the Quinlan and free magic in the area.
Ta-da!
Yeah. And they don't fight Zed in the story because they handle it in the cinematic. So it's like it's like the most hand-waved, like, go watch the cinematic real quick to check this out, right?
Right. Surprised there wasn't a link to it right there.
They should have embedded it.
That'd been nice.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it does end with just them kind of like battling, but we don't get any info there. But I will say the cinematic, or the story, gives some context that is useful to know in the cinematic, because if you were to just watch the cinematic, it kind of looks like Zaya just goes down like a chump. Like, it looks like she's hella outclassed by Zed, which, she may be. Zed has a tendency in his stories and cinematics to just outclass anyone he happens to be up against.
Except Shen.
Even then, like, it's even Shen's like, you let me win. The fuck, man. But yeah, so knowing that Xayah was kind of struggling to just hold it together, being so close to the Quinlan, kind of just draining her life force, like helped it make a lot of sense. Like she was struggling to even summon the feathers that she needed to fight.
Yeah, even just knowing like what that thing, like, because I mean, I think I, like most people, just watched the cinematic, and so knowing what the fuck that thing is, what's Zed doing with the thing, you know, what the fuck's happening. It's, you know, you don't really know from the cinematic. You just know that like that thing is bad. I guess it's evil and red and glowing, and when it blows up, it's good. Good job, new champions.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, that was this story. Then he showed up in the Blade of Millennia, kind of. He's mentioned. Basically, like we mentioned, it's a Kain story where Kain went to go get the, he went to go get Rost. It was the final test that he had to become. He was already part of the Order of the Shadow. His thought was that this was the final test, and then Zed was going to hand the Order of the Shadow over to him, which in the comic he kind of does. At least for a little bit.
Yeah, he kind of just does it later. Like, I don't know, just like, whatever, I guess you could be the next guy.
Yeah, it was not in return for this final test, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But Zed did send him there to pick up Rost. That's kind of that's Zed's only mention in this story. Also, there's one point in the story where the whole thing is that Noxus has this weapon, and whenever people try to wield it, it takes over their mind and then destroys them from the inside. But they don't want Noxus to have this weapon in case they figure out how to use it, so they're sent to steal it. Kain steals it. One of the Noxians who is protecting it runs away and gets stabbed from behind. Two things that we know Noxians don't do. So I don't know what.
He must have been a new one.
And he didn't know the rule.
Yeah.
He got the no armor on back rule, but he forgot the don't run away rule.
Classic fuck up.
Yeah, then we've got Man with the Steel Cane.
Yeah. So this is the one that kind of ties into the comic. I mean, it's like scenes from the comic are showing up in here. It's actually a Jhin story, and it's Jhin setting up a trap for Zed and Shen. And as part of the setup, he kills a maid, and he's got these lanterns that he's set up, and I think at one point they've got Shen is sitting there in like this is the one where Shen is sitting in like the restaurant or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Eating delicious sounding pork. It always makes me fucking hungry. And he's sitting there, he's getting ready to savor his meal, and Zed comes in, and the whole time they're sort of like, oh, he's 3 blade lengths away, one more step forward and I can lunge for him, and Zed's kind of purposely like leaning back in his chair to make sure he's not within striking distance, and he's sort of Zed is laying out for Shen that, hey, Jhin is back, he's back on the scene, and he's causing a ruckus, and you gotta help me get him. But Shen not necessarily on board. And then it kind of shows them also seeing the aftermath of one of Jin's murders, as Jhin is sort of like, oh, the stage is set, and here we go, ready for the big show. And it kind of ends there, and we see some of the context before and after these things in the comic. Although it is funny, I know we've talked about it before, how in this story there's no fighting. Everything is like there's a lot of tension because they both know each other so well, and like they were making these very specific movements to make sure nothing gets too crazy. But in the comic, they just sort of swinging left and right at each other.
Yeah,
no fucks given.
It's really funny to go to the comic version after reading
I can't reach
this.
him, but fuck it, I'm gonna try anyway.
Yeah, they just immediately start fighting.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know. I like. I guess between the two, I do like this one a bit more. I like Shen and Zed just sitting down, and they both know each other so well. They know exactly what moves they're gonna make, but they don't actually do it. They don't actually fight or actually do the things that they think they're gonna do. There's a little more. I don't know.
A little more hero.
I always love an awkward family dinner scene.
And he doesn't even eat his delicious pork
Right?
thing. That's the saddest part of it all. Yeah. So yeah, do you want to get into the comic? I mean, that's the real meat of this whole thing.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Zed's blonde.
He's like platinum, right?
Like he's platinum blonde. He's Britney, bitch.
He's like Dante is what he's like.
That's true.
Or like Virgil, I don't know, one of those guys. I know we've given the credits for this whole comic many times. Maybe at the end, if y'all remind me, I'll pull it up and I'll give it. Because obviously it's a comic. It's not just writers, but it's artists and editors and etc. Anyway, we can get into it. So
it opens with a lie.
Does it really? I don't remember what this it does. Yeah, it does, right? Because Zed is kind of having his little internal monologue about, I was once a student to a great master, Master Kusho. I killed him. And there's a big asterisk on that whole killed him thing. So Zed and his shadow nerds they're going to go kill this Kinkou master. They kind of make mention of how they've been ordered or contracted, I guess, to do it by the Navori. And there's a lot of mention. This is like the first of many mentions of some sort of mysterious patron that is also kind of funding them, that is separate from the Navori. This was Master Kusho's nephew, so Zed knows him and he knows Zed, and Zed kind of resolves to kill him solo. He's going to solo kill this guy, which he does. No big deal.
Master Alphon.
Alphon. Yeah, I remember it was an A. I was going to call him Alvin, but Alphon, we'll go with that.
Alphon. Like fucked.
Yeah. But they do it, and then kind of meanwhile, Shen and Akali, who, at this point Akali is out of the Kinkou, but they do find the body, and so they're like, this could lead us to Zed, and Akali kind of spurs Shen to go look for him. Meanwhile, back with Zed's crew, a woman shows up. This is like the evening. They're chilling at a bar, and a woman shows up with an offer like, this rich man, wants you to come meet him at this specific place, and he said to give you this, and you'd remember, you would know who he was. And it's this scalpel. It's a Kinkou scalpel that was Zed's, and this is where we see a flashback of Shen and Zed when they were, again, young men, helping Kusho find Jhin, and they come upon the aftermath of one of Jin's performances, and kind of the horrific things that they have to do, and to in the aftermath of it. And Zed has to like go through this horrible sort of triage situation where he has to like, abandon people to die, do really severe, life-saving surgeries to keep people alive. And Kusho at the end of it is sort of like, you did better than Shen even would have done. This is where we get. So he's got 3 names, which is a real fucking problem for me. So Zed's original name was Ghost. Christ, I should have written it down.
I wrote it down here. It's Govos or Gavos.
Govos, thank you. Yeah,
we won't hear it again. So
yeah, Gavos. And then Kusho gives him his new name, which is Usan, which is like a super good name. It's like this is the one for someone who's super important, and kind of names like you'll be the next Eye of the Twilight. They go to where they've been kind of instructed to go. It's the ruins of that same village, and when they get there, they find 2 corpses. Zed already kind of knows that it's Jhin, and he definitely knows it because these 2 corpses that have been turned into horrible flesh flowers. One of them is the woman who had brought them there in the first place, and the other one is a girl who 19 years ago we had seen he had amputated her leg to keep her alive, and here she is 19 years later, killed by Jhin. So Zed and his crew are hanging around. Jhin attacks them, kills 4 of Zed's squad, and Zed is chasing after Jhin as Jhin goes down into like these docks of like this city. And we get another flashback where we had seen that we see where they captured Jhin and how it had been this elaborate sort of trap where Zed had allowed himself to get captured, knowing that Shen would come save him. We also kind of get some insight into like Shen was, to be married to this girl, but she and Zed had like this sort of secret affair going on, and she was there at this festival thing, and that was Jin's whole like master stroke, was he was going to kill her, and it was going to be some horrible tragic thing, but they one-upped him and caught him, and we see Kusho kind of insisting that Jhin be kept alive. And then as Zed is kind of chasing after Jhin gets away, and Zed kind of realizes that Jhin has recreated the whole thing and then kind of blows up the city behind Zed as like a big fuck you, essentially, just to kind of rub it in Zed's face that you can't catch me, I did it again. So Zed resolves he's going to have to go get Shen to help find Jhin. Shen has kind of said, we can't go get Jhin now. There's 8 demons attacking somewhere else. I gotta go be somewhere else, Akali. Don't go after Jhin. Don't go find Zed. And Akali is like, okay. And then she goes, whatever, fuck off.
Crosses her fingers behind her back.
Yeah, which she does multiple times this comic. But Zed has determined that he has to go find Shen. Shen's the only one who can help him catch Jhin. And the only person he knows that he can trust who can help him find Shen is their old flame, Yevkai. Oh, Christ! I didn't write down anyone's name.
I feel like it was an L, like a Yevlai. Could be making that up though.
Big Y.
Big Y.
Yeah, we got one of those opening up real soon next to us. Yeah, and so he goes to see her. She is now in like a marriage of, I guess, convenience. We might say, to some rich guy who she doesn't really love, but it, is kind of keeps her in a nice house, and she's happy enough, I suppose. And we see that there's no love, there's no love there anymore. She's completely like, not even just like cold to him, but seems to like kind of despise Zed at this point. It's funny, he comes in trying to convince her to like tell him where Shen is, and like, he gets mad and like breaks her teapot, and just is like, that's not gonna convince her, my man.
Right?
She's got me a new teapot.
This girl dodged a bullet, dude.
Right, dodged a shuriken.
But he's able to, I guess, sway her enough that she's like, Shen, there's this temple that he goes hangs out at sometimes. Go check it out.
He blackmails her, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I guess he kind of does do that. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Does he?
Because she has 2 kids, and one of them is part Vestayan. I can tell.
Yeah.
Your husband is so proud; he wouldn't like that. You're stupid. You're Vestayan assistant, or whoever he was. So I think that's why she told him.
I'd have to reread it because that wasn't like the read I got on it, but but he does definitely call that out. I mean, maybe that is it, and that would make more sense because there's not a lot of incentive for her to help him in the first place.
Yeah,
and we do get another hint of Zed's just hatred of the Vestayan here, because when he gets called out, the Vestaya who had slept with her is kind of like behind him, looking like he's gonna try and sneak attack him, and Zed's like, I wouldn't do that. I've killed so many of your kind. Not even an issue for me.
Maybe he hunts them like they're animals. Like he's got Vestayan heads. It's like deer hunting to him. He doesn't hate Vestayan, but it's game,
worthy prey. Right.
Yeah.
I just win it every time.
Which is weird because the one deer that we know isn't even Vestayan.
Right?
But he's gonna kill her anyway.
It all comes out in the wash. So he goes to this temple.
What? The sayings that you come out with sometimes.
So he goes to the temple, right? He goes to the temple that Shen's at. He brings along his boys. This is where we see the scene that kind of came up in that previous story where they go and they have their quiet conversation where they're fighting a bunch, and he's trying to tell him like, hey, Jin's back. You got to help. Shen is not really on board with the whole thing, but he kind of lets everything go. They're still under this truce. Is kind of the point. Is that they're still not quite fighting, but as soon as like Zed leaves, Kane is there, Akali's there, I should say. Also, Kane is kicking around in the comic, and I think at this point it's been established that, hey, Kane, you know what, man, you're going to be the next shadow leader, buddy. He gives him the like, you're my successor. The old thumbs up. After this one, Shen is just like, the truce is over, the war is back on, which is like, I don't know, is that a verbal, like a legally binding verbal contract?
I don't know. This whole truce thing makes no sense to me.
So I think my read on it was that the truce wasn't like this long-standing truce. The truce was he was passing on a message about like a threat, and I think they have some sort of code about killing the messenger. So he was protected as long as he didn't attack Shen up to the point where he was finished delivering that message.
Although Shen did attack him, so I don't quite know.
They make no sense to me. They're very hypocritical.
Who knows? The Kinkou aren't hypocritical. How dare you? Everything they do makes sense.
It's all logical. But the point of it all is that Shen resolves that he is going to go find, him and Akali are going to go find Jhin, and Zed is like, well, I'll just let Shen go do that, and I'll follow Shen, and we'll all end up at Jin's place together, and in that moment, we'll capture him together, even if Shen's not on board with the idea. And that is kind of what they do, you know. Shen and Akali are tracking down leads. This is where we start to see some of like a little bit of what's going on in the bigger picture in terms of like some of, you know, Jin's targets are not just random and innocence. They are that, don't get me wrong, but there's also, you know, he's specifically killing these various elders on some sort of regional council that is going to have some vote about military unification. It also sort of like the implication that like political opponents to like this Ionia single military unit thing are being kind of removed as a result of Zed and Jin's sort of actions. You know, they come upon, again, another thing that was in that Man with the Steel Cane story, where they see the aftermath of one of Jin's murders, and, you know, Zed is kind of skulking around in the rooftops, and he's like, I've seen these lanterns before, what's the dealio? And he opens one up, it's like, it's a bomb, Jin's here, this is all a big trap, you know, they're I gotta let Shen know what's going on, and it devolves into this huge chase where they're chasing Jhin again out into docks, and as Jhin is like leaving, he sets off the trap and it blows up the city, and it kind of Zed ends up in the situation where he can either get to Jhin or he can go save Shen, who has been like knocked kind of semi-unconscious under the water, and he resolves to go save Shen, his brother, whom he loves. And when they come out on the beach, they have this big clash, this big showdown, where Shen kind of puts it to Zed that, you know, ultimately this is your fault because you're not thinking things through enough. You know, this is all for you, Jhin. You're the audience, and if you had fucked off to the mountains, Jhin would have gone to the mountains, but instead you chased after him here, and now everyone's all fucking dead because of you. And he beats Zed. You know, he's got a hold of Zed, and at this point, Kane beats the shit out of him, and Kane lets Zed be captured. He's like, we're not going to go save him. We're going to go see our patron. And it's been established that like we don't talk to the patron even when we need money. Them having no money is like a big thing that comes up a lot. It's like, even when we're broke, we don't go to the patron. But Kane makes an executive decision to go talk to whoever their patron is, who they don't know. So they've got Zed, right? They've got Zed. They've got him bound in like these nullification scrolls. He can't use his magic. He's caught. And Shen is trying to press him for why he killed Kusho. And Zed puts up these various lies that Shen kind of sees through pretty immediately. And the closest truth that Zed kind of gives him, the closest thing to truth, is that, like, you know, we need to be able to deal with Noxus, but it couldn't be the Kinkou, because if they did that, they would lose their special place as like these arbiters of balance and become just mercenaries or another warrior band. So we needed something else that could, you know, be untainted. And that's what I created, you know, and this is where we see that, you know, between the two of them, Shen was the one who was being more who was actually going out at night and sneaking out and fighting Noxians and shit. And Zed was kind of covering for him and like throwing fights to make it look like he was training and stuff. It's kind of interesting. And so, you know, Shen kind of resolves it. You know what? We'll go get Jhin. But you have to take him alive. That's the price, is that you come with me. We're going to go get Jhin, and we don't kill him. Now, Akali is doing her own thing, has gone off because Jhin has gone off to Piltover. At the end of that little chase sequence where he blew up another city, you know, Jhin has fucked off to Piltover, and Akali has chased after him. We see her do a little detective work. We see that Jhin is causing problems for all these. He's working for like some shipping cabal, is kind of what they kind of say. Haranguing all of these Piltovan merchant clans, and there's only one left that is still doing that work, Clan Pharos. They tried to kill him. We see the Awaken cinematic, and you know, Akali goes to the aftermath and you know, has a confrontation with Jhin and is captured, right? And Shen and Zed are hot on her trail. They do their own detective work. They find where she's captured, and there's Jhin, and he's got everybody all together, and they have a big fight. A few people almost get shot in the head a few times, but it all resolves. They get a hold of Jhin, and when Zed has a hold of Jhin, he is beating him, and he is kind of demanding that Jhin say who freed him and who is like helping him, which is something that Zed has been pushing a lot in previous issues, but specifically to Shen. He's been trying to get Shen to like ask the question of who let Jhin out, because there's only 4 people who know where Jhin was. You, me, our old lover girl, Big Y, and Kusho. And Jhin while Zed is kind of pressing for this, is taunting him, saying like, well, I'm not going to tell him. You know who it is. I'm not going to spill the beans. I'm not going to make it easy for you. And so Zed kind of fucks off. So Shen and Akali have Jhin. Zed, for his part, has gone back to Ionia, and he's sneaking into this temple in Navori, back to their mysterious patron, who is Kusho. We see that Kusho is alive.
I thought he was dead.
I know we talked about him a bunch, but I thought he was dead, right? But no, Kusho is alive, and what we kind of learn had happened is that Zed had convinced Kusho to fake his death so that he could kind of orchestrate things from the shadows, not taint the Kinkou while still being able to help lead Ionia to safety and prosperity. But he's gone too far this time. Zed's had enough of his bullshit. Kusho kind of lays out that the only way that we'll get anybody in line is if they're scared, and Jhin makes people scared. So if we just let him blow up a few more cities, just a couple more, it will all be right as rain. And Zed's not on board, and Kusho's like, well, don't worry about it, because I got a replacement. Kane, go kill Zed. And Kane it's like, well, I've got dozens of our acolytes out there, and they're all ready to kill you, but my master, you, taught me to be honorable and loyal. And Kane does not kill Zed, and in fact has all the other Shadow Order students who are still loyal waiting in the wings, and they all go out and go kill all the traitor students. So it's just Zed and Kusho left in the room, and Kusho grabs a hold of that shadow box, and he pops the top, and he shotguns it like it's it's Friday night at a frat house, man.
How much shadows in there, man?
Not a lot anymore.
Know. Right?
He chugs, right? He got the big gulp, right? You know what I mean? So he's all shadow monstered out, right? It's nasty. He didn't put his lips on it, though, so that's okay.
He still has decorum.
Right? Pinky's out, but they duke it out, right? And Kusho is saying all these vile things, and he's using his shadow clones to make all these images from Zed's history kind of pop up. And Zed sort of is doing a rope-a-dope thing where he's like, well, that was some wild shit that you just did, but you've been lost in the sauce for a few months. I've been doing this shit for years, and you're already running out of juice. And, me, I was born in the shadow. I was molded by it, and so he ults and kills Kusho. And then there's kind of a little end sequence with him and Kane where he's kind of like, well, I thought maybe you might kill me, Kane. And Kane's like, well, I was doomed when you found me, and you took me in, and you cared for me and respected me, and you gave me purpose. And would you kill someone like that? Would you kill Shen? And Zed's like, I might have to. I don't know. Nobody seems to like us anymore, so I don't know what we're gonna do exactly. But they're off to adventure together. And his last lines were like, well, the only thing we can hope is to be better friends and fathers and brothers than we got, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's the comic in summary.
I liked the comic.
I liked it a lot. I know we've read it a lot. I felt like it had been enough time that I sat down and really, really read through it, and I really, really liked it after this reading in particular. I don't know. I like kind of the setup with Shen and Zed. I like how they're both kind of in positions that aren't really. In a perfect world, neither of them would be doing this. Zed would probably be the Eye of the Twilight, and Shen would probably be doing something more akin to what seems like Zed wants to do. Yeah. I think it's been kind of neatly constructed the way they've kind of ended up in these uncomfortable positions, having to do what the other one kind of would maybe almost prefer to do. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like you mentioned. This to me is canonical Zed. Mm-hmm. This seems like how this is Zed's personality. Zed's personality wouldn't sell as many skins as Zed's cool armor does. So
yeah, you don't see him in his full armor in the comic very often, honestly.
Yeah, I can't even think of a moment where
probably because he's got the fucking evil.
It's really true, right? I guess when he's in that very first fight with Alvin.
Yeah.
They mention, I think this was in an AMA or Twitter or something, that that armor specifically that we see in game is his war armor. It's not his
every day.
It's not his stealth armor or his everyday armor. He does a lot of missions without it, but if he just plans on fighting someone 1v1, that's his armor.
Well, you do see that in the they have a flashback. I didn't mention it because it wasn't like big revelations. They have a flashback of him when he kills Kusho, and we see that that's exactly what he was wearing. Like him and his whole unit that he had like a little army, I guess he commanded, and they all wore outfits pretty similar to that. So it's sort of kind of makes sense, I suppose. I like it a lot.
Speaking of his fight with Master Alphon, it was the final bit. So I mean, Master Alphon is just so confident, so unearnedly confident that he's going to win this fight, and just gets so shit on. But it also seems really unnecessary. So Zed has like 3 shadow clones that are all just stabbing Alphon. But then we also see that there's like a shuriken in Alphon's chest, which just seems like over. It wasn't there a second ago. It's not like someone threw a shuriken and got him and then all of them jumped up and stabbed him or anything. Like, we see him a panel before that with all the clones like right next to him. Like, they stabbed him, and then like at the same time someone was like, I'm gonna hit him with a fucking shuriken too. Fuck this guy.
I feel like Zed really didn't like him before all this.
He kind of came off that way. He was not. He was probably maybe the most ruthless with that guy, because like all he says to him is like die, like when he's killing him, right? There's no like, oh, I'm sorry, I must do this. My second cousin twice removed or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
you never did the dishes.
He's like, I got a paycheck with your name on it, so peace.
Yeah, I guess he didn't like 1v8 him or whatever. He did make a point of only just fighting him. I guess 1v1, but he's all the clones. Yeah.
Right? I was gonna say he kind of 1v8'd him, but it was they were all him.
Sure. I mean, to be fair, the guy threw a bunch of spears at him, so I was like,
that's
whatever.
fair. But yeah, he must have been. The feeling I get is that while the patron is paying a lot of people to assassinate political opponents, the jobs that they send Zed's way are the people that they can spin as being like, hey, and also this guy did fucking nothing during the war. So he's probably fine with all those.
Yeah, there's a line from Zed that I had forgotten. Like, there's a lot of little lines I had forgotten about. There was one where he talks about how he's thinking about the things that Jhin is doing and how it's very specifically like a lot more like dirty work, like killing innocents, children, bystanders that he specifically did not do, like jobs I guess that he said he didn't want to do, and he says Jin's doing it and he can't tell if it's like just to mock him, right? It's all, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to, because like they from Kusho's sort of end speech, it seems like they kind of just let him off the leash just to cause general havoc, but he seems pretty targeted in the things he's doing too. He's killing specific people. You know, he's right. They make mention of how like the work he's done in Piltover is also to help like ensure that they have complete control over like the inflow of foreign weapons into Ionia, right? So it's like, I don't know if it's just that like their interests align in that way, or if maybe it's so hard to nail down Jin's like motivations in this comic, because it could all just be for the purposes of fucking with Zed ultimately. Right?
He does seem very invested in messing with Zed and Shen, like uniquely so. He did make Shen and Zed puppets.
That's true, and perform.
Did you see Did you see the Kusho puppet on this read through?
No.
In the end, in the panel it's in issue 6. It's at the very end panel where he's killed Kusho and he's with his corpse in the rubble. To the right of them, there is a little Kusho puppet in the rubble.
That's so good.
I really want the creators to come in and help. Just tell me, what does that mean? Like, what, like, because that's so specific. Someone had to say, draw that in. That's not like an accident that thing got in there. It's like, what is that intended to communicate? I guess is my question.
Yeah,
is
that's
Jhin just
interesting.
Orchestrating it all?
I do feel like Jhin is orchestrating more than is shown. I guess he just kind of seems like the type. And to be able to manipulate Kusho, I think he'd be able to do that. When did Zed realize that Kusho was the one who released Jhin?
It seems like he's known it for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's pushing Shen pretty consistently through their interactions to like he's always trying to lead Shen to that conclusion, right?
Yeah, I was always really thrown by like why he wouldn't just. At that point, he realizes that Kusho's not working with him anymore. Yes, that he's released Jhin and that he's gone off the rails.
Seemingly,
why not just bring Shen in on what's going on? I know it's like probably his word and his honor or some bullshit.
Honor.
But that's
absolutely what it is.
That's so annoying. That's just like we don't know how to write it otherwise, guys. I don't know. It's just he's a really honorable person. Yeah, because that really annoyed me the entire time I was reading it.
I could see it. It's hard because like on the one hand I like the weird kind of dogged consistency of Zed's like loyalty to him. It's interesting because I could see it almost through the lens of like because they make a real strong point about Zed having no like being abandoned by his father at a very early age, right? And where Kusho is absolutely like the adopted father figure, and so I could see it through the lens almost of like getting away from the literal to like how having to kind of come to grips with your parents as people, right?
Yeah.
And recognizing their faults, and maybe that's something that Zed had a lot of trouble with. I don't know.
Yeah, I can get behind that, and that he's just always went to Kusho instead of Shen. As much as he loves Shen, his loyalty has just been with Kusho this whole time, I guess. I don't know, kind of like Talon with his dad. Like, even though that guy's all fucked up, he's just like unwaveringly loyal to him.
Yeah. I think it's more reasonable, like, why wouldn't he have gone and confronted Kusho earlier? I guess maybe he felt that he couldn't let Jhin.
Right, he just wanted Jhin out of the picture immediately.
But you would think he would have just at least gone and been like, hey, what the fuck, man?
Travel probably takes a lot longer than we're giving it credit for.
Are you kidding? They went to Piltover and back in this comic in like 2 panels. They fine.
Say that it is weird. The timeline on that is a little weird because they say that Akali's been working in Piltover for like a month. And yet they somehow get there at like the right time. But again, it's like Jhin is probably just, we can always kind of wipe anything away with like Jhin just orchestrated it so that everything kind of lined up perfectly with the timing. I would say,
I mean, it's probably significantly easier for them because Akali does not speak Piltover. The only way she could communicate with anyone in Piltover is by speaking Noxian, which, God, that has to feel bad for her.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think it was Zed that speaks Piltover enough that because there's this brotherhood stationed in Piltover that he has to communicate with.
Yeah. So, like, I'm sure they were able to do that whole thing a lot quicker, right? That's true. Yeah, I think something else that would kind of be in support of why he might prioritize Jhin is I like this little story he tells of one time Kusho told him to reflect on a spider web for 3 days and how, and this I think also kind of hints, because Kusho is another big question mark for me in terms of understanding, like, how long was Kusho fucked up? Was it something more recent?
Yeah.
Has he been fucked up for a while? But Kusho kind of says to him after these 3 days, like, well, beetles are armored and tough and they're meant to survive, and moths are not, which to me kind of hints him being maybe a little more fucked up for a longer period of time, that he just kind of sees that some lives are sort of meant to be extinguished, etc.
That's true.
And then after these 3 days he kind of asks Zed, well, how many insects did you free from the spider web? And Zed's got this great response of like, none, because I killed the spider on the first day. Right? And he goes back to that where he's like, I'm gonna kill the spider Jhin before he can do anything else. So I think that is kind of trying to establish his priorities, maybe, in terms of Jhin being the biggest threat.
Yeah. And I think that also touches on, I mean, we talked about the Kinkou never being hypocritical. In that scene after the first big attack from Jhin, where Zed's trying to use his healing magic to kind of save people, and one dude is taking a lot of Zed's time, and Kusho's like, let him go. You don't have time for this. And he's like, if I let him go, it'll be me killing him. And he's like, well, in the time you spend trying to save him, you could save 5 more people. So, it's the scales. Yeah. And then they find Jhin, who is the epitome of let him go and he'll kill more people. And he's like, no, we're good. We're gonna take him in. His whole people don't upset the balance. Just kicks in real selectively.
I know.
Yeah. that whole balance thing is still always kind of a murky concept, especially because they have established that people absolutely can fuck with the balance of the spirit world if they do it good enough. If they try hard enough. So
you know what was a weird thing for me that I think I had forgotten about until rereading this was that up until that first murder with the that Zed and Kane and his followers stumble across, up until that point, all of Zed's murders were knife murders. He was strictly a knife guy up until that point. Yeah, Jhin. He was strictly a knife man up until that. That was the first time. And like Zed even mentions, like, oh shit, it works on guns now. It's so weird to imagine Jhin just using a scalpel and shit for him.
Yes.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I had forgotten about that too. And also, man, this is a dense comic. In rereading it, I forgot. There's a lot of moments. I had completely forgotten that in the fight with Kusho, when Kusho is like he's just he's saying all this vile shit as like an emotional attack on Zed, and he's using his shadow clones to just forms an image of Zed's mom, because there had been this moment where Zed's mom had come to the temple like trying to beg him to come back home, and Zed had not even gone to see her. Right? I thought that was kind of fucked up. I was like, I'd forgotten about that little bit. It's kind of wild.
They touch on that a bit too in Zed's fight with Shen, when Shen's like, have you even looked at the faces of the shadow clones that you make? Like, they're the faces of all of your regrets, and you kind of look at the shadow clones and it's like Kusho's face and like I think like you have Lai's face or something like that, to some faces of people he had let down in the past. He's like, they don't work for you, like you work for them.
It's a neat little turn. It's an interesting idea to kind of play with what's going on with that shadow magic. I mean, some of the art I really enjoy. I like instances where that shadow box is around, where everything around it is kind of cast in just black and white, and almost like the colors
Mr. Negative
a little bit.
Or negative, Mr. Negative Man. I forget his name.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, or like I can guess, I suppose.
Spider-Man villain.
Oh, yeah.
It's neat. It's a nice way of depicting it.
Yeah. So when they first captured Jhin, the whole trap that they laid for him, I thought it was funny when Jhin captured Zed. Jhin said, "Your master will never make it here in time to save you." Like, he's seen all the angles. He knows that his master Kusho is not going to make it. And then Zed's like, he doesn't have to. Shen's here. And then Shen fucking Kool-Aid Man's through the wall and sets Zed free. And then Zed goes to kill Jhin, and Kusho's like,
Kusho's right
like,
there.
The fuck? Okay, so you could have been in here in time to save me.
Shen just really wanted to burst through the wall,
right?
Though.
He's like, I've been practicing.
He's like, Dad,
this.
Please, Dad.
I'm doing my wall bursts. Look how good I am.
I know, son. We have no more walls left.
That's the real reason
funny.
that temples don't have walls.
Shen, for fuck's sake.
You gotta stop, my boy.
It's so drafty here.
Oh my god, that's fucking great. I didn't think about that.
I feel like something that the bio really glosses over, because the bio talks about, Shen decided he needed more power, so he went back to the Kinkou Temple to steal the shadows. But in the comic, we actually get to see them essentially at war. They're fighting against Noxus, and they've done an assessment, and they're like, well, we can't hold this anymore. We have refugees from all over. Noxus is taking over this place, and we can't stop them. There's too many of them, and all these refugees are gonna die. Like, what are we gonna fucking do? And Zed's like, all right, hide the refugees, and I'm going back. We'll see what I can do. I feel like that's a kind of important detail.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's what we're talking about. Where like this is what we should look to as our source of truth, because it has the room, right, for like nuance, and it does a lot of what I always want from various pieces of League lore, which is I always feel like I'm saying, like, I want to see this, I want to see that, you know, and this is like, almost every issue has some flashback showing some important scene or sequence of events that happen to help shape the current state of things and the current state of the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes off a lot less like he's in it for personal power, which is how it's kind of written in the bio.
I also found it really interesting, even up to the point where Shen is beating the shit out of Zed, he still calls him Usan, which was something that
I feel like most people don't call him Zed.
Well,
that's true. Yeah.
It specifically came up in the fight with Alphon. He called him Gavos. He's like, I don't go by that name anymore. He's like, well, I'm certainly not fucking calling you Usan. You definitely don't deserve that name anymore. It's interesting that Shen clings to it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's also neat to see just how fucking outclassed Akali is.
Poor Akali,
here.
man.
Like, when she decides, like, oh, I'm gonna fight, if you're not gonna attack Zed, you know, maybe you've got this code, I'm not stuck by this code, I'll do whatever the fuck I want, and then attacks Zed. And Zed just, like, so nonchalantly is just like, pa, just, like, knocks her aside. It's like, all right, I'll ignore that because you're Zed's student, but, like, don't let it fucking happen again.
Shen's
Shen's student. What did I say?
Remember we did this during the Shen episode.
Jesus Christ.
You said Zed.
Oh,
it's
God,
okay.
damn it.
It's okay. Their names are too similar. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
Also,
I feel like with this Zed, I'm so sorry. I feel like Akali would really be on his side.
that's what I was thinking.
They're very
like,
similar.
They are so
Shen
similar.
even says as much.
Yeah, like it's the reason she left the Kinkou Order, and especially if she knew that he didn't kill Kusho. That's why I assume the
That's
only
her main
reason,
sticking point. Like,
because otherwise she's completely like on his side, really, with everything else.
It's true. I mean, like I said, Shen says as much that the reason she was his favorite student is because she reminded him so much of Zed. I mean, and she even did the same thing of leaving the order to go do her own thing, you know. So
To actually be able to kill people. she likes it.
we find out in this comic that the language they speak in Piltover is Piltoverian.
I'm gonna ignore
Fucking
that.
hate it.
no, we're not
Hate
gonna do
it.
that.
Fully ignore that one.
We're all agreed with Piltover, right? We're
Speak common.
Common. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty much all I had. Did you guys want to hear about some cut ideas from here?
Oh yes.
Sure. Yeah.
I have them in my fun facts, but I'm gonna skip ahead. All right, so they had originally had a scene in here where Zed kills a Vestayan elder that knew Kusho, so that he could steal his magic. This was going to be in episode 1, but the Marvel editors were like, "This makes him really unlikable. We can't do that."
I'm kind of liking this idea. Sorry, I'm kind of liking this idea of like these Marvel guys who just have done a ton of this coming and be like, no, you can't do that. That's going to make everyone hate the character. What do you think? Like, what are you thinking?
Wait, and this is supposed to be a Zed comic? He's the protagonist here. There was a flashback scene where we see Akali being dragged away while her father tries to buy time for her and some other Kinkou members to escape. Zed does not think much of Akali's father at all, but he wants the others to escape, so he sends his weakest student after Akali's father. But his weakest student was still strong enough to kill him. So
does he specifically say, "My weakest student, step forward"?
You guys sucks the most.
That would kind of help smooth over why maybe she would be not inclined to
That's fair.
be pals with Zed.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Shen and Zed had a talk during the war. Shen was worried about Zed, thinking he was taking too many risks and angry at his father's inaction, but he also suspected that Yevnai, I wrote it down here.
You had the name.
There we go.
Big Y.
That Yevnai had feelings for Zed, and that had something to do with the marriage being called off. It was just kind of some stuff that was implied. You know, they just cut that. They had some Akali scene, like they had an extended fight scene between Akali and Kane. and some extended Akali investigation scenes.
Interesting.
They mentioned they wrote some scenes which would have been too hard to do with the ratings restriction.
Interesting. So definitely a fight scene between Akali and Kane turned into some epic banging.
I mean, they do hint at it.
They said there were 3 different scenes where Zed and Kane were doing horrible stuff to monks and or Vestayan.
Oh my god, why?
Do they just come in? How much did Marvel have to be like, no, this is a big fucking no.
Please stop making your protagonist torture these cute animal humans.
Right?
And the peaceful monks.
Right. It's like, I read this Stephen King book called Slay the Dog. I think that was the name of it, right?
First of all,
no, you missed
Stephen King did not write Save the Cat. The guy who wrote Blank Check, the movie, wrote Save the Cat. Yep.
Let's watch that. Let's watch Blank Check.
It does not hold up.
Doesn't age well.
No.
Speaking of scenes that wouldn't make it in the ratings.
The grown-ass woman flirting with the 11-year-old.
Kissing the 11-year-old.
Yeah, that too. Anyway.
Right, on the lipsies.
Yeah,
Funny Marvel had to cut that out of this comic too. They had that written in here.
You could watch this on Disney Plus.
There were a couple flashback scenes with Kusho, specifically one where Zed gets banished from the temple for using the Ichor, while Yevnai and Shen are there watching helplessly. There are 2 scenes which, combined with other clues in the various issues, created a little map-based mystery where people could use the map to figure out where Jhin was going next if they put together all the clues. Yeah, would have been neat. And finally, there was no Kusho is alive originally. The original finale had Jhin taking the temple Zed was prisoner in. Shen arrives, and then they do kind of the same trap that they used to capture Jhin the first time around, with Jhin capturing Zed and all that. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I'm trying to think how I feel about that. It's hard because Kusho really... I almost wish I kind of wish we had a little more flashbacks with him, because like I said, I have trouble understanding exactly how, like, was he always completely manipulative and only ever viewed Shen and Zed as like these things that he could use, or did he like at one time care for them as a father and just degraded?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And what is it that kind of twisted him? Maybe it was also hunting Jhin. It messed up Shen and Zed so much.
Right.
I feel like the things he did, it could have messed him up too.
Sure.
Yeah. And I don't know at what point, this was likely before the big singed chemical attack too. I'm sure that had a pretty dramatic impact on a lot of feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the most realistic, right? Is that it's not one thing, it's just the weight of many things as the year goes on.
What is it good
changes.
for?
Now, Zed has mentioned a few other places.
Oh.
He is in the Katarina comic. So
I read that long ago, and I don't remember him in it.
So Katarina, when she has that magic slug hallucination, or whatever, she has a hallucination where Talon and her dad are fighting Zed. Zed's just 2v1ing them easily. Then she comes to the rescue, and they defeat him. And as they describe him in that comic, he is the last champion of Ionia. They've defeated the last champion of Ionia. But then Katarina's dad says that he's proud of her, and she's like, wait a minute, this isn't real.
This ain't real.
You can't fool me.
I know that fucker. You would never.
Now, he's also mentioned in The Bow and the Kunai, which takes place a few moons after Zed's takeover of the Kinkou Temple and the murder of Kusho. It's 17 blade lengths after the... and obviously, he's in The Eye of the Twilight, which is the Shen bio. He's in The Heart of the Tempest, which is the Kennen bio. They talk about the coup again. He's in the Rogue Assassin, which is the Akali bio, where they talk about the coup again. Fucking everyone's making a fuss. He's in the Shadow Reaper, which is the Kane bio. At the end of the Kane bio, he's hoping Zed will name him the head of the Order of the Shadows, which I guess means that Kane's arc is complete now.
He just doesn't have any other goal, I guess.
And then the Virtuoso, which is the Jhin bio. Finally, someone who mentioned Zed and doesn't give a shit about the coup. So, yeah, so those are the stories. He has some canon cinematics.
Oh, man, that's a lot of cinematics you've listed.
They're not all canon, but...
Yeah.
First of all, Deathmark. We talked about this a little bit. This is the animation test. It's basically a badass animation where Zed just fucking murks a bunch of Noxian warriors. He does actually use Deathmark, too, so...
He does.
It's an apt name.
Cool.
That was nice. It was also cool to see the warriors clearly shown as being, like, very competent. I feel like in a lot of highlight scenes with really skilled fighters, you see the skilled fighter just, like, tooling all over the people, and they're just, like, clumsy or doing big swings. Like, you could see these guys are really fucking good, and Shen's just... Zed's just way better.
He's also like using like shadow clones and shit, which I imagine Noxian's not really trained to handle.
Yeah, they don't do magic as much. Their magic is restricted to weapons and LeBlanc.
But no armor on the back.
No armor on the back. That's crazy.
I mean, to be fair, these guys got no armor on the back. They don't really have any on the front though either.
Now he's in Wild Magic, which is that cinematic following a piece of Shadow Cake. That's a cool, basically just a cool little fight scene there.
So good, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We get let's see. Oh, those are the canon ones. We have a new journey, which is an animated one inspired by the true story of Michelle, a university student and League of Legends player who joined a team and joined the fight.
Go, Michelle!
Yeah, cinematic opens with her just getting fucking shit stomped.
Great.
As Yasuo against Zed.
Sounds like my first League experience as well.
Right?
Except Zed and Yasuo weren't in the game yet.
Yeah. Karthus was mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And he shows up in You Really Got Me, the Wild Rift cinematic. Yasuo and Zed are fighting. Zed almost gets Yasuo with a shadow clone trick, but then he tries it a second time, and Yasuo's like,
no.
Then he shows up in Breathe, which is the Legends of Runeterra cinematic, where Darius and Zed are fighting. Zed is definitely, villain coded here, which is a weird angle to take, given that the person he's fighting is...
invading his home.
Invading his homeland. Also, I feel like they kind of make Darius win a lot of the encounters, which seems unlikely. I feel like this fight would go way more like the Deathmark video. Like, Darius is a super good fighter, very competent, very, very good, but Zed is equally good and has magic.
Yeah. But Darius has cards from Legends of Runeterra. He's got the followers. He's got the little Zon orphans or whatever. I don't remember what it's.
Right.
The little Zon orphans.
There is Zon orphan cards in Runeterra. Yeah, they're little balls. Yeah.
I'm sure the only place that might have more orphans than Ionia is Zon.
Right.
Orphan off. Orphan battle.
Oh, maybe Shurima though.
Oh shit.
It's a lot of places.
Man, Runeterra is just full.
Runeterra sucks, dude.
0 out of 10. Would not visit.
Don't want to go there.
Then he shows up in Road to the Cup, the 2013 World Cinematic. Zed is in the post-cinematic freeze frame. And he shows up in Rise, the 2018 World Cinematic. There's a big old shuriken stuck in the ground at 18 seconds, so you can...
Zed is not a shuriken.
You don't know that.
He could be.
Naruto has Shadow Shuriken Jutsu. Why not Zed?
Because this isn't Naruto.
It's basically Naruto.
Yeah.
He runs like Naruto.
Yes, true. They make shurikens as big.
He should have that quote.
Oh, that would be great. Riot, why didn't you do that? That would have been really funny.
Speaking of quotes, he has a few that are interesting.
Mm-hmm. Are they, though?
Forbidden shadow wins. Is a Mortal Kombat reference.
Oh, yeah.
What I have done cannot be undone is a Macbeth reference.
Getting classy in here.
Right. And then Galaxy Slayer has some fun ones. Before us, there was nothing. Before nothing, there were monsters. Do you know what that quote is from? It's pretty deep, right? That's the Lich from Adventure Time.
I actually wasn't even trying to look at the answer. I was trying to read it again. Interesting.
He's got a quote, "You're already dead," which is a Kenshiro quote from Fist of the North Star. He's got "no cure for foolish captains," which is... So his Galaxy Slayer is part of the... What's the... God, why can't I remember the Odyssey one, where Yasuo's kind of the captain of a ship. Mm-hmm. So that's a reference to Yasuo's quote, "There's no cure for fools." And finally, he has a quote in this AU. "Look at the skills, look at the moves. Zed, what was that?" Which, as we mentioned, quote from the famous duel between Faker and Ryu.
I didn't know that they had him say that.
I've got to go listen to that.
He sounds so like... He definitely does not have the enthusiasm that the announcer has when he says it.
Which, by the way, if you've never seen that duel, highly recommend. I mean, it's like 15 seconds long, right? Like, you gotta see it.
Yeah.
But it is just...
But it's so dense every frame.
Yeah, number one iconic League of Legends, clip of all time.
Yeah.
It's up there, yeah.
But yeah, that's canon. I've got some AUs. You want to hear about some AUs?
Yeah, I brought up the skins already. Sorry, I'm yawning right at the start of the year AUs. You're always like, please stop yawning during the AUs. And then I immediately like, yeah, I got the AUs.
Let me get them all out of the way. All right, first up, we got Cloud Edge. Bearing weapons imbued with lightning magic through the deadly cloud ritual, Shockblades are an order of mysterious shinobi warriors tasked with protecting humankind from malevolent spirits and monsters. They travel between the mortal and spirit realms to chase down threats no one else can touch, safeguarding the future for all denizens of the mortal world.
Dun dun dun.
It kind of sounds like just Shen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
They're all Shen now. This is Shockblade Zed. An elite operative of the Shockblade Order, Zed dives into battle with lightning-fast lethality. Though his former partner Shen hasn't forgiven himself for nearly getting Zed killed, Zed still urges him to return to the front lines. And yet the storm rages on. Whether or not the duo are reunited, Zed will bring its fury to bear alone if he must.
No, I kind of like that dynamic.
Yeah.
They're not like antagonistic or anything.
Friends.
Yeah, I want them to still be besties in one,
Yeah. And we got Project. Among the megastructures and packed streets of a future controlled by global corporations, a shadow war rages between rebellious augmented humans and newly empowered artificial beings. The winners will shape the course of history, and the losers will be forced to evolve. This one is Project Zed. Rising from the command line, Zed is a leader within Project's counter-espionage unit. He seeks out the genetic rebels with split high-frequency blades and molecular solid smoke projectors, favoring close proximity and multiple angle target lacerations. And there's a prestige version of this skin. Faced with imminent defeat at the hands of Mordekaiser at the numberless hordes of infected machines, Zed seeks out a dilapidated research facility in the heart of the wasteland, searching for illegal and potentially dangerous upgrades. His return may mark a tipping point in the battle for the city, though he has transformed into something beyond human and machine. And
desperately trying to scroll in time to like see it, and it's just white and gold.
Yeah, it's just white and gold.
It's before they really like started doing
those
bigger
were the
differences
upgrades
with prestige.
He's like, he just found a can of paint out there and was like, holy shit.
Oh, I look sick.
I'm not even human anymore. That's what he sounds like. Now that he's painted. And there's a cinematic for this, Overdrive.
Oh, God.
Fiora and Lucian are saving Master Yi from some experimentation, and then Zed attacks them. Frankly, he seems to be very easily 1v3ing them. But then Master Yi does some stupid cheating move. And
As Master Yi's do.
you know how it goes.
I don't think I've seen Project Zed, weirdly. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of these skins. I must have and just not been paying attention.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of them that I haven't seen. I have seen Project, but there's a lot of these that I was like, huh, okay.
Interesting.
We've got Odyssey. From the heavily urbanized core worlds to the outermost edge of the galaxy, adventure awaits. The great Demaxian Empire has laid claim to almost every inhabited system, ignoring the objections of the ancient Templar Order and the criminal syndicate alike, in pursuit of the wondrous bounty of Aura. This mysterious golden essence, drawn from the vast, majestic creatures that patrol the stars, is the lifeblood of all civilization, but also promises untold power to those who can wield it for themselves. And this is Galaxy Slayer Zed, who, despite not having any stories or anything, does have like a Star Guardian length bio in the Odyssey page. Raised by the Templar Order, Zed dedicated himself to all its teachings at a young age. He learned every fundamental truth and passed every harsh trial until the day he stood proudly before his masters and was anointed into their ranks. Only then was Zed given what was to be his final and greatest test, to seek out and protect one of the legendary megafauna, a truly ancient creature worshipped as a god by many among the Edgeworlds. It was a test he would fail, in a manner of speaking. An expedition of Demaxian troopers ambushed the young Templar, seeking to harvest the creature's aura for themselves. Unwilling to let such power fall into the hands of non-believers, Zed killed it before their eyes, an act defying every tenet of the Templar faith. In an explosion of cosmic energy, the aura consumed him in body and mind. Ever since, Zed has seen himself, or rather themselves, as the most perfect expression of all life. With the interdimensional whispers of aura guiding him across the deep space, he has become a monstrous entity capable of swift and deadly destruction. All other living beings are but a distraction from his new vision of harmony, a galaxy cleansed of the weak and undeserving. I mean, it's a solid gig if you can get it.
Is that little last bit?
That little last bit is part of the bio.
That's wild. They're like, tag a joke at the end.
It's a little heavy.
Right? And they also have a little bio for his suit, the aura suit.
Great.
Zed is infused with aura in its purest form. It writhes across his skin, transforming his limbs and crafting living weapons, from shimmering blades to wicked throwing stars and countless other objects with keen, aggressive edges. With enough willpower, he can even summon autonomous clones of himself from the aura. These confuse and distract his enemies, making them question their own senses, or forcing them to defend from multiple directions at once. But above all, the clones offer Zed a familiar face when he finds himself dining alone. What? That's totally something Zed should consider. He seems lonely.
Did they do something where like someone wrote the first half and then someone else without seeing the first half just had to write like the last 2 or 3 lines or something? It's so...
I feel like both of them, they were like, the Odyssey ones are kind of fun a little bit, right? Like, let's maybe let loose at the end.
Woo!
Like, don't worry, guys. It's still fun in here.
It's still jokes. Shit's still jokes.
I feel like this is what Marvel movies feel like to me now.
This is weird. It's very weird. I was liking the ideas of like, I don't know. It's a little edgy, but I was kind of liking it.
Yeah.
His setup.
Well, don't get too edgy, Mark.
Yeah,
it's still fun. Still jokey.
It's still fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun fact about this one, Odyssey Karma is a high-ranking Templar priestess who was Zed's former lover.
Oh, shit.
Ooh.
Spicy.
Man, I kind of want to see that pairing in canon now.
I could see it.
Right?
If they like sat down and talked, I bet they could.
I bet they could work it out.
They could work it out.
These two kids, these crazy kids.
I feel like most
Maybe
of the
they'll make it.
people there are like after the same thing, right? Like
Yeah.
Karma, Aurelia, Zed. If they just kind of had a conversation, they could work this out.
You know,
Honestly,
when I was writing League fanfic, I had one of my big ideas was Zed trying to get Aurelia on his side, and her being kind of swayed by it.
Yeah,
So.
I could see that. I mean, you guys want to stop Noxus, you got to kind of join together. This whole, like, 8 different little armies is not going to work.
Yeah, Noxus kind of has their shit together from an army perspective.
They do.
It's the one thing they do. They don't do schools very well.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, next up we have PsyOps, Black Rose Group.
All their schools have been massive successes, John, including all of their plans and projects. Why does he just look like Master Yi in this
I
one?
know, right? It's very trippy.
Get more eyes, Zed. You look like an idiot.
Stupid.
Either have 2 or 10, like Master Yi.
A psychic paramilitary unit of fearsome power, the Black Rose Group hopes to create a new global order with their ferocious human bioweapons. This is PsyOps Zed, known as the Gas Can Man in paramilitary circles.
Why? Is he tooting all the time?
I don't fucking know. And if you're hoping for answers in the bio, you're going to be sorely disappointed.
I think he's just gassy.
Zed is an infamous mercenary picked up by the Black Rose Group during one of their covert actions. His psionic powers are tied to a mysterious oil-like substance he ingests through his mask, allowing him to duplicate himself for assassinations and open combat.
And it makes him fart
Makes
like
him
crazy.
Now, he's in the cinematic Operation Songbird, or rather his name is. So this is where Sona gets freed from her imprisonment by Ezreal, Master Yi, Vi, and Shen. At the end, we see a computer screen activating operatives by codename, including codename Shadow.
Fart guy. Oh.
Which, despite his name being Gas Can Man, is apparently his real codename. I wonder if he knows people call him Gas Can Man.
That's what they say behind his back.
Well, not behind. No one wants to be back there.
We're so mature.
Next up, we got Crime City Nightmare, Debonair. Power, wealth, and glamour collide in the penthouses and exclusive clubs of Knox Vegas, where truly beautiful people hold the world in their palms. Yet as night falls on the City of Lights, the knives come out. Influence is the name of the game, and nobody likes to lose. This one's Debonair Zed. The most powerful and powerfully dressed man in Knox Vegas, Zed has been dabbling in more than fancy parties and cutthroat deal-making. A new crowd from Crime City has entered his inner circle, granting his debonair gentlemen an unbreakable stranglehold over the strip, and a dreadful new change in both mind and body.
Now, am I wrong, or did they change the summary, the description for this AU to drop like the Eldritch like potion?
Yeah, it
feel
seems
like,
they dropped the Eldritch on this one.
You know what? Good for them. They recognized that they weren't doing it, and they just abandoned it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm open
We
to
made
it.
fun of him one too many times. Like, this was a
did it
cool
again.
idea. We're not doing it, though.
Those loreheads, they made fun
The
of me
Skins
again.
lead came in and threw down the episode and said, "Not again." They scooped us.
Mommy, they're bullying us again. Next we got Neon Strata. The first Empyrean Pike tears through the realms on a destructive rampage against his counterparts, birthing new Empyreans in the process. Who will reign supreme as these new powerhouses emerge, and what will they do with their rapidly dwindling time left? This is Empyrean Zed. The foreglow is a power many desire, but Zed resents how it exposes him. His is a strength born from darkness, away from prying eyes. Perhaps in the fallen husk realm left in Pike's wake, can he build a new domain of shadows, one that no Empyrean can topple. And this has a Legends of Runeterra level up. Though it grants him immense power, Zed finds the light of the foreglow repugnant. As other Empyreans rampage through one realm after another, he searches for a husk world from which he can build an empire of shadows. It's got a little quote here. We are the shadows cast by the burning realms.
Okay.
Yeah, he's looking for shadows.
See, Peter Pan? These next two look very similar.
Yeah, they do. I could see that.
Yeah.
We've got Immortal Journey. Long ago, in an ancient land, many souls gathered beneath the gods to test the limits of their power. Foolish and arrogant, brave and just, their journeys are written into the immortal pages of history. This is Immortal Journey Zed. When Zed became immortal and began studying the other realms, a new desire took hold. Knowledge was everywhere, so he needed to be everywhere.
Oh, shit.
Upon discovering his explorations, the grounded Foresight School banished him. Zed doesn't care, though, for he's found a new demonic power, allowing him to be everywhere and all-knowing.
I don't like that.
Is it shadows? Is that the power he found?
It's shadows. Fun fact, in this AU, Immortal Journey, Kale was Zed's student before he got banished.
Kale, Kane, you know.
Yeah. He loves the K-A-Ys. Those are the only two, though, so...
He calls them both K, so he doesn't mess it up.
There's a cinematic for this called Immortal Journey, which I had never seen, but it's actually pretty fucking cool. So a bunch of Immortal Journey folks are here trying to fight Zed, as is the usual for Zed in cinematics. He's just pretty easily just fucking wrecking all of them. Then Kale enters the fight, and it's a bit more even, but Kale gets rocked too. Until Soraka comes in to help Kale, and the two of them are enough of a match for Zed to warrant an action freeze frame ending.
Great.
Both of their powers are very cool to watch here, though. I feel like this was a neat implementation of Zed's abilities in this cinematic it wasn't just like shadow clones doing shadow clone shit. Like, he did some cool stuff here. Highly recommend. Then we've got Moons of Ionia, a Blood Moon. An ancient cult seeking irresistible power surfaces on nights of the Blood Moon to perform profane, esoteric rites, merging their flesh with demonic spirits and becoming one with an ever greater darkness. This is Blood Moon Zed. As loyalty fractures within the Blood Moon cult, Zed remains Twisted Fate's unshakable right hand and personal power broker. He trades in secret, shadows, and blood, all while using his mastery over his demon to increase the cult's influence. What Twisted Fate doesn't know is that Zed is also searching for his lost acolyte, stolen by the Snow Moon.
Who is that? Do we know?
I do not know. I think we probably do, but I forgot to look it up. I'm going to turn that down. We can keep an eye on it.
Poppy woke up. She mostly just seems very confused.
Yeah.
Like, where the hell am I?
All right, next up we got Deathsworn. Eager to claim more souls for the underworld, Death sends the souls of fallen warriors as Deathsworn back to the mortal plane, where they serve their master's terrible bidding with relish. This is Deathsworn Zed.
I've never seen this. Sorry.
Having lived in the life of shadows, Zed's eventual return from the dead should have come as no surprise to anyone. A master of unliving darkness, he's only too happy to spend all eternity spilling mortal blood as one of the Deathsworn. And finally, good luck finding this one. Supreme Cells. Set in a world where champions are members of cells, martial arts gangs who battle for the control of the dynamos. This is Supreme Cells Zed. Zed's experiment with forbidden power has forbidden power harvesting proved fruitful when he consumed the power field around a single decommissioned dynamo. Despite his body's struggle to contain it all, he needed more. Zed is now mobilizing the Siphon Cell against the Dynamo Cell, declaring a lazy tournament to determine which cell controls the dynamos.
I feel like someone replaced like a third of the words you just said with just random nonsense. Like,
yeah.
Okay, I don't know. This is a Wild Rift thing, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's maybe. Okay. No worries.
Yeah, and those are the AUs. Just want to hear a few fun facts?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Zed is voiced by Donnie Lucas, who also voices Galaxy Slayer Zed, Debonair Zed, and Supreme Cell Zed in Zed and Legends of Runeterra. Zed wants Gangplank dead after he ransacked the Temple of the Jagged Knife.
It's random.
Yeah, just fun lore fact. Zed, his order, and the Navori Brotherhood are extremists. They believe the magic of Ionia is for the Ionians, meaning they should be able to use it however they like. So limits on using the magic don't sit well with them. So the fact that the Vestaya tribes fought for Noxus and many tribes stayed neutral during the war, at least until Noxus started burning down the lands, doesn't sit well in Zed's view. Those tribes are traitors and should be killed. So that was a bit of like additional text from, Riot AMA shit.
Yeah, sure.
I don't love the idea.
Zed was born from a peasant family in Ketha, Ionia. His father left his family when he was about 4 years old, never returned, and then he rejected his own mother to stay with the Kinkou.
So rude. God, my heart. I can't even imagine.
Right? What if our little Poppy became a shadow assassin?
All because some dumb asshole dude was like, I'll be your dad.
Zed's around 34 to 35 years old. 4 years younger than Jhin. He appears to be ambidextrous.
Good for him.
Good for him. And as we saw, he has a rudimentary understanding of healing magic from performing surgeries during, the bad times.
The bad times.
Zed is one of 20 champions without a single ability power ratio on any ability. And he's the first champion to not actually die, per se, in-game. Instead, he drops into a shadow portal. Shockblade Zed disappears after being struck by a lightning bolt. After Zed, there's Echo, who rewinds time, and then Nunu. Willump does die, but Nunu does not.
I hate it. It's the worst.
Zed, Sona, Garen, and Vi were all targeted by Jhin in his teaser before he was released. After Zed was shot, his champion icon in his League of Legends page and his champion list was updated to a GIF with petals blowing past him. Zed's the 5th champion to use energy as a resource for abilities. Razor Shuriken, Living Shadows, and Shadow Slash, respectively, mirror Thundering Shuriken, Shadow Dash, and Crescent Slash. And Deathmark references Assassin's Mark and Mark of the Storm, which all kind of point to him being a Kinkou Order member before leaving. He's got a Kennen ability, a Shen ability, and an Akali ability. It's the hat trick, baby. Zed used to gain the Law of Inverse Ninja Strength cosmetic Easter egg debuff. If you hovered over it, it would just say, this unit is a flippin' ninja. Ninjas are more effective when they work alone. For every ninja on your team beyond yourself, you lose 1 health. So whenever he, Akali, Kennen, or Shen were on the same team, they would lose 1 health for each one of them that was around. This was removed in 3.14 for some reason. Unknown reasons was never said.
People have not died with 1 or 2 health before, so you could argue that.
Yeah. That's why they got rid of that Halloween Earth doing 1 damage and popping banshees. In a 2018 survey, Players who selected Assassin as their favorite class rated Zed 27% higher than any other Assassins as one of my favorite champions, which is dramatically higher than any other champion by class.
Interesting.
And that's that.
That's Zed. Any final thoughts?
We didn't get into his old lore. I will say he has it's really the same thing. It just has a lot less detail. It has a lot less detail, and it's a lot more kind of. He's just a straightforward villain. He just wants super duper power, and he wants everybody to be a shadow man. Just throw it out there.
I'm a shadow. You should be a shadow too.
Yeah, pretty much. So, but aside from that, no. The comic's really good. It's really dense for him. Getting more with Zed might be cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Well, that was Zed. Thank you so much for listening. We have a twitch.tv/loreheads. I stream usually Tuesdays, so that's the last Tuesday. And Friday, we play League of Legends. And then John does TFT and ARAMs with viewers. So, hang out with us in the evening, EST.
Yeah.
We have a YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces. Mark's and John's biceps are out tonight. They're both wearing sleeveless shirts. Oh, yeah. Mark's wearing a delightful shirt we got for him for his birthday. It's exceptional. But check out our YouTube. And we have a Discord. You want to find some people to chat with, play League with, please join our Discord. And we have a Patreon. We got a post on there. Thank you so much to all of our very patient patrons.
And a very special thank you to our Medarda tier patrons, King of Hearts and Mr. Dead. If you were a Order of Shadows member, I would take a special interest in both of you, and I would give the control of the Order of Shadows over to both of you combined as I went to kill Kusho.
Beautiful. I spaced out a little bit during that one, but I bet it was great.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Well, please be sure to join us next week because we will be talking about the Spark of Zaun, Zeri.